I, 18-year-old male, have a half-brother, 16-year-old male, who I have never met. He is the result of my dad's affair with another woman when I was a kid. My dad left my mom and me for his mistress and started a new family with her. He never paid any child support or alimony, and he rarely contacted me. He basically abandoned me and chose his new family over me. My mom raised me by herself and worked hard to provide for me. She passed away last year from leukemia and left me everything she had, which was not much, but enough to pay off my student loans and buy a small apartment. I was devastated by her death, and I miss her every day. A few weeks ago, I got a call from my dad's mistress, who is now his wife. She told me that my dad had died in a traffic accident and that he had left a will. He left half of his estate to his wife and the other half to his sons, me and my half-brother. However, he also left a note saying that he wanted me to meet his family to get the money and forgive him, saying that he regretted not being a good father to me. He asked his lawyer and wife to contact me and make me aware that he had left me a substantial portion of the inheritance. I was shocked and angry when I heard this. I hate him for trying to buy my forgiveness with his money after ignoring me and my family for most of my life. I told his wife that I didn't want anything from him and that I wanted nothing to do with them. She sounded hurt and said that they were just trying to honor his wishes and that they wanted to get to know me and be a family. She said that my half-brother was looking forward to meeting me and that he was willing to share his inheritance with me. She asked me to reconsider and give them a chance. I hung up on her and blocked her number. I don't want to have any contact with them. I don't care about the money or the family. I only care about my mom, who was the only parent I ever had. She was the one who loved me and supported me, and she was the one who deserved the inheritance, not them. I don't want them to have it either, though. It seems as if I am promised around 25%, and I would rather have the money go to my youngest sister. But I don't want to take what I see as a bribe. What should I do? I am conflicted. I know I could just suck it up, but it feels like I would be disrespecting my dead mother if I did so. But I really need the money. Meeting them is a requirement to get the money, and I can't just do it once. It said I had to spend time with them and do bonding activities with them. I have to spend nearly 30 hours to be eligible. My younger sister, she could really use the money, and she's the person I care about the most. I also don't want to forgive the man that ruined Mom's life and indirectly led to her death. I'm sure I could make some money to help her with college life, but I'm never going to be able to match the insane sum that he left for me. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. While this isn't an easy choice, know that whichever choice you make, you will not be a jerk. There is no wrong answer here. If you feel like the money would help you and your sister out and that you can suck it up for 30 hours, go ahead and do it, and don't feel bad about it. If you feel like the dishonor to your mother's memory is too much for you to bear, then don't do it. Not the idiot. Jerks are your father and most likely the mistress. Comment 2. NTA. Firstly, I am sorry for your loss. Do what feels right for you and have no regrets. There's nothing wrong with saying no to money. There's also nothing wrong with doing something you don't like to get it. Meeting them doesn't mean that you have to continue meeting them or commit to a long-term relationship. Whatever you choose, you are justified. Now for the update. Hey everyone, thanks for reading my previous post and offering your support and advice. It's been a tough few days since I last updated, and I have a lot to share with you. After much deliberation, I decided to meet with my dad's wife and half-brother, despite my reservations. I figured that if I could just get through the required 30 hours of bonding activities, I could secure the inheritance money and use it to help my younger sister with her college expenses in future. The first meeting was awkward, to say the least. My dad's wife, Sarah, greeted me with a hug that felt forced and insincere. My half-brother Jake seemed nervous and unsure of how to interact with me. We sat down for lunch at a fancy restaurant, and Sarah tried to make small talk about my life and interests. I kept my answers brief and polite, not wanting to reveal too much about myself. As the lunch progresses, Sarah started sharing stories about my dad and their life together. She talked about how much he had changed since meeting her and how he had become a better man and father. I couldn't help but feel a twinge of resentment at her words. Where was this better man when I needed a father figure in my life? Jake remained mostly silent throughout the lunch, occasionally chiming in with a comment or question. I could tell he was curious about me, but didn't want to overstep any boundaries. As we were leaving the restaurant, he pulled me aside and apologized for the awkwardness of the situation. He said he understood how difficult this must be for me and that he hoped we could find a way to connect, even if it was just for the sake of the inheritance. Over the next few days, we engaged in various bonding activities, such as going to a baseball game, visiting a museum, and even taking a short weekend trip to a nearby lake. During these outings, I learned more about Jake and his life. He shared stories about growing up with our dad and how he had always wondered about me. He admitted that he had mixed feelings about the inheritance and didn't want to feel like he was buying my forgiveness or friendship. As we spent more time together, I started to see glimpses of our dad in Jake, his mannerisms, his sense of humor, even his love for classic rock music. It was unsettling at first, but I couldn't deny the connection we were starting to form. Sarah, on the other hand, remained a mystery to me. She was always pleasant and accommodating, but I couldn't shake the feeling that she was hiding something. One evening, while Jake and I were playing a game of pool at a local bar, he let slip a piece of information that made my blood run cold. He mentioned that our dad had been having health issues in the months leading up to his death, and that Sarah had been pressuring him to change his will. Jake said he overheard them arguing about it one night, with Sarah insisting that I didn't deserve any of the inheritance because I had never been a part of their family. I was stunned by this revelation and didn't know how to react. I excused myself from the game and went outside to get some air. As I stood there trying to process this new information, I realized that I had a decision to make. I could either confront Sarah about what I had learned and risk losing the inheritance, or I could keep quiet and continue with the charade of bonding for the sake of the money. In the end, I chose the latter option. I didn't want to cause any more drama or conflict, and I knew that my sister needed the money more than I needed the truth. I finished out the remaining hours of bonding activities with Jake and Sarah, all the while feeling like a fraud and a sellout. When the time came to sign the papers and receive my portion of the inheritance, I felt a sense of relief and guilt. Relief that I could finally put this whole ordeal behind me and move on with my life, and guilt that I had compromised my principles and betrayed my mother's memory in the process. As I left the lawyer's office that day, I couldn't help but wonder what my mom would have thought of all this. Would she have been disappointed in me for taking the money, or would she have understood my reasons for doing so? I guess I'll never know for sure, but I do know that I will always carry the weight of this decision with me. Thank you for listening to my update and for your continued support during this difficult time. I appreciate all of your kind words and advice, even if I didn't always follow it. Take care, everyone. Am I the idiot for going to a birthday party right after my dad's wife's funeral? My dad's wife died 2 weeks ago. I, 15-year-old male, didn't like her, and her death didn't really make me grieve. I felt bad for my dad. I feel for my half-siblings. But she's not someone I'll personally miss. My dad always knew we'd had a very rocky relationship. He used to ask me to give her a chance because she didn't always say the right things, but she was a good person deep down. Her not saying the right things included saying hateful things when she wasn't hateful, or saying discriminatory things, but of course, not being discriminatory. She called my mom an intimacy lover because my mom met my stepdad when I was only a newborn. They didn't start dating until I was 4, but the fact she met the guy she would later marry made her an intimacy lover, apparently. Also, not marrying my dad for me made her an intimacy lover too. She told me she didn't like my relationship with my mom because it left no room for her. She would complain when I wouldn't hug her and would try to accuse my mom of giving me issues by not taking care of me when I was a baby. It wasn't true, but that was her way of trying to blame my mom for me not being affectionate with her. She got sick 2 years ago, and my dad begged me to try getting along with her better. I told him the best I could offer was biting my tongue and walking away from her more. 3 months ago, she was given the all clear or whatever, and then she was dead. The cancer had returned and she died before they realized. My dad and half-siblings were really upset. I had to be there for them. But I felt like Dad expected me to be upset and to grieve like they were. He'd tell me to cry and open up about how much I missed her. He asked me questions when funeral planning came and would dismiss my "I don't know what she'd want" and tell me of course I knew. But I didn't. I never paid attention to stuff she liked. The funeral came during my mom's parenting time. One of my best friend's birthday party was the same day, and I wanted to go, so Mom said of course. And after the funeral, which I went to, I attended the party. My dad was furious when he found out about it, and he found out because of social media. He asked me how I could be happy and cheerful and celebrate something when I lost someone we all loved. I had to really hold back that I didn't love her, and I didn't lose anyone because I really didn't. My dad also raged at my mom. She told him I was a kid and deserved to have a good time. He asked how I could be so heartless and told me I could have stayed with him and my half-siblings and helped take care of them instead of going off to celebrate. But instead, I went to a party to celebrate on the worst day of our lives. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Not the idiot. The worst day of his life. Not yours. How can you possibly grieve for someone you didn't care about? Because your dad is grieving, he expects you to do the same. You played your part by going to the funeral. There was nothing more for you to do but sit around watching others grieve. This is why they say misery loves company. Your feelings or lack thereof for her are valid. There was nothing wrong with you going to celebrate a friend's birthday. Comment 2. Not the idiot. This is somebody you'd avoid as much as possible during life. So of course you'd avoid her after death. You did your duty. You went to the funeral to support your family. You wouldn't have been with them afterwards regardless because it was your mother's parenting time. What you do during the time with your mother really isn't their business. You were good. You continued holding your tongue when your dad tried to make you mourn his way. Now for the update. Hey everyone, thanks for reading my last post about my dad's wife passing away. It's been a month since then, and I wanted to give you all an update on what's been going on. After the funeral, things got pretty tense between my dad and me. He kept trying to get me to open up about how much I missed his wife. But the truth is, I didn't miss her at all. I know that sounds harsh, but we just never had a good relationship. She always said things that rubbed me the wrong way, and I never felt like she really accepted me as part of the family. Anyway, a couple of weeks after the funeral, my dad sat me down for a talk. He told me that he understood that I didn't have the best relationship with his wife, but he was disappointed in how I handled things after she passed away. He said that going to my friend's birthday party right after the funeral was disrespectful and that I should have been there for my half-siblings instead. I tried to explain to him that I was just trying to cope with everything in my own way, but he wasn't having it. He said that I needed to start acting more like a part of the family and that he expected me to be more involved with my half-siblings from now on. Things were pretty awkward between us for a while after that. I started spending more time at my mom's house just to avoid the tension. But then last week, something happened that I wasn't expecting. My dad came to pick me up from school one day, and he had my half-siblings with him. He said that he wanted us all to go out for dinner together, just the four of us. I was a little hesitant at first, but I agreed to go. At dinner, my dad started talking about his wife and how much he missed her. But then he said something that caught me off guard. He said that he knew that she wasn't always the easiest person to get along with, and that he understood why I had a hard time with her. He told me that he had been doing a lot of thinking since she passed away, and that he realized that he hadn't always been the best father to me. He said that he was sorry for not standing up for me more when his wife would say things that were out of line, and that he should have done more to make me feel like a part of the family. I was shocked. I had never heard my dad apologize like that before. It was a really emotional moment for both of us. After dinner, we all went back to my dad's house and spent some time together as a family. It was actually really nice. We watched a movie and played some board games, and for the first time in a long time, I felt like I belonged there. But even though things are better between me and my dad now, there's still a part of me that feels guilty about not being more upset about his wife's death. I know that she was important to him and my half-siblings, and I feel like I should have been more supportive during that time. I've been talking to my mom about it a lot, and she's been really understanding. She told me that everyone grieves in their own way, and that there's no right or wrong way to feel. She also reminded me that my feelings towards my dad's wife were valid, and that I shouldn't feel guilty for not being closer to her. I know that it's going to take some time for things to feel completely normal again, but I'm hopeful that my relationship with my dad and half-siblings will continue to improve. I'm trying to be more open with them about how I'm feeling and to make more of an effort to spend time together as a family. Thanks for reading, everyone. It feels good to get all of this off my chest. Am I the idiot for fighting for my grandpa's house after my parents kicked me out? I'm a 17-year-old male in the middle of my parents' 3 children together. I have an older sister who is 19 years old and a younger brother who is 15 years old. My mom has other kids from her previous marriage. Her other kids are in their 20s and one is almost 40. I don't really remember him, but the others lived with us mostly when they were younger, and it was difficult. My mom's ex-husband was a jerk, and my parents ended up creating a very chaotic childhood for me and my 2 siblings. The police and Child Protective Services, CPS, were regularly involved in our lives. Mom's ex-husband called them on us several times, but they were also called on him sometimes, and they would talk to my mom, dad, or the other kids. Mom's ex-husband was arrested from our home many times because he would show up uninvited, refuse to leave, and cause trouble. Sometimes Mom's other kids would also cause trouble, and the police had to get involved. They hated our dad, despised us, and would encourage their dad's behavior. Our house was basically a chaotic place. 3 of the people living with us didn't want to be here, and my parents were so focused on rescuing Mom's siblings from her ex-husband that they neglected to make sure we were okay. Mom's ex-husband treated us poorly, but my sister had it the worst. He would make derogatory comments about her appearance and weight, and he would act inappropriately towards her. So we faced bullying from a creepy guy and from people who were supposed to be our siblings. We used to be so scared of him and seeing him around because of how he acted. And to make matters worse, we always came last at home. Mom's other kids were the priority. Then my parents prioritized each other, and then the 3 of us. The best part of my childhood was when we lived with our grandpa for about 5 weeks during a CPS investigation. He showed us the love, support, and attention that we lacked at home. He also tried to shield us from the craziness. Our parents never did that. We had a front row seat to all that was happening. And even after the last of Mom's other kids moved out, the focus was still mostly on them. We would also see them for Christmas every year, and they still hated us. So that was always enjoyable. In the past year, things have been somewhat different. Now my parents like to complain that we're ungrateful because we're not close to them and don't share things with them. We don't have the typical parent-child relationship with them. None of us trust our parents. If we need an adult, we go to our grandpa. My parents often complain about my sister for not having anything to do with them, despite them thinking they gave us a good childhood. I heard that a few times, and last week, I lost my temper and told my parents that they didn't give us a good childhood and that they should reflect on how terrible things were and how they brought us into a huge mess. My parents called me a selfish, ungrateful kid. My brother supported me, but they were angry with me for saying that. They told me I didn't appreciate them trying their best. Am I the jerk? Now for a few comments before the update, comment 1. Not the idiot, some parents can try their best, but ultimately aren't good at being parents and the children have to deal with the results. If you care enough about the relationship to save it, then family therapy is an option. As someone who also comes from this kind of home, I'd recommend writing them letters. You don't have to save them, just as a personal exercise to get the experience on paper and work through feelings. Be careful though when it comes to confronting them now. Does your younger brother still rely on them? Is there a chance this could result in anger, which gets directed at the one child they still have power over? Comment 2. Not the idiot. If trying their best involved cops, CPS, a terrible ex showing up all the time, and older half-siblings bullying and creeping on you, they should never have had kids. Power through as much as you can and get away from this toxic mess. I'm sorry that all the adults, except your grandpa, failed you, including CPS. Now for the update. Hey there, thanks for the update. It's been a busy month since I last posted, and a lot has gone down. Shortly after my last post, my grandpa passed away unexpectedly. It hit us all hard, especially since he was the one stable and loving presence in our lives. The funeral was a small affair, just immediate family. But guess who showed up uninvited? Mom's ex-husband and her other kids. They made a scene yelling at my dad and upsetting everyone. Mom just stood there frozen, not knowing what to do. I couldn't believe they would stoop so low as to ruin Grandpa's funeral. In Grandpa's will, he left his house to me and my siblings. He wanted to make sure we always had a safe place to go. When my parents found out, they were furious. They felt entitled to the house and accused us of turning Grandpa against them. The truth is, Grandpa saw how neglected we were and wanted to protect us, even after he was gone. But my parents couldn't see past their own selfishness. Things reached a breaking point when Mom's other kids moved back in with us temporarily. They claimed to have nowhere else to go. Suddenly, it was like being transported back to our chaotic childhood. The constant fighting, the police being called, the verbal abuse. My sister couldn't take it and ran away to stay with a friend. My brother and I were left to fend for ourselves. One night, I overheard my parents talking about selling Grandpa's house to support Mom's other kids. They were drowning in debt from bailing them out over the years. I was faced with an impossible choice: allow the sale to happen and lose the one safe haven we had, or take a stand against my parents. In the end, I chose to fight for what Grandpa wanted. I contacted a lawyer using money Grandpa had secretly given me before he died. He knew something like this might happen. The lawyer sent a letter to my parents informing them that the house couldn't be sold without the consent of me and my siblings once we turned 18. This sent my parents into a rage. They kicked me out of the house, saying I was a traitor and an ungrateful brat. I had nowhere to go, so I stayed at a friend's place, sleeping on their couch. My brother begged me to back down, scared of being kicked out too, but I couldn't let my parents win. Not this time. In the following weeks, I struggled to stay afloat. I picked up odd jobs to make money and barely attended school. My grades started slipping. Teachers noticed something was wrong, but I was too ashamed to tell anyone the truth. I felt utterly alone and hopeless. Looking back, I realized my actions may seem selfish to some. I tore my family apart and left my brother to deal with the fallout. Mom's other kids are still living at home, and I hear things are worse than ever. Part of me wonders if I made the right choice, choosing my own stability over keeping the family together. But in my heart, I know Grandpa would be proud of me for standing up for myself and what's right. I'm not sure what the future holds. I'm still couch surfing and barely getting by. My relationship with my parents is shattered, maybe beyond repair. I miss my brother and sister terribly. I hope one day they can forgive me. All I know is that I'm a survivor. I've been through hell and back, and I'm still standing. Grandpa used to say that we were warriors, that we could overcome anything life threw at us. I have to believe that's true. Otherwise, what was the point of fighting so hard to hold on to his legacy? Anyway, that's the gist of what's been going on. It's been a tough road, but I'm taking things one day at a time. Thanks for listening and for all the support after my last post. It means more than you know. If you like this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.